The office was silent, save for the soft hum of the air conditioner and the occasional shuffle of papers. I sat at the polished mahogany desk, the contract spread out before me, the pen poised in my hand. The fluorescent lights reflected off the surface, making the ink glimmer. I had been waiting for this moment for months, the culmination of painstaking negotiations, late nights, and countless phone calls. This deal was supposed to change everything, secure our family's future, provide financial stability, close a chapter of uncertainty that had haunted me for years. Yet as I scanned the contract line by line, a cold unease settled in my chest. Something didn't feel right. Every clause seemed standard, every number accounted for, but my intuition, a voice I had learned to trust over decades, warned me to slow down. I reached the last page, my eyes tracing the fine print. It was there, almost hidden, in the tiniest font, a single line that could nullify everything. Upon signing, all claims to the estate shall be irrevocably transferred to the party of the second clause, including any previously undisclosed assets. My hand froze. The words were simple, yet their implications were catastrophic. If I signed, I would unknowingly relinquish not only my property, but also control over decades of carefully built wealth. My heart pounded as a storm of realization hit me. I was about to make a mistake that could cost my family everything. I pushed back from the desk and ran my hands through my hair, trying to steady my racing thoughts. How had I missed this? I had reviewed the contract multiple times, but the last line had eluded my attention until now. The room suddenly felt colder. Shadows seemed to creep along the walls as if echoing the trepidation in my mind. I thought of my late husband, who had always been meticulous with legal documents, always the one to catch hidden pitfalls. If he were here, he would have warned me. I glanced around the office, noting the framed photos of family milestones and achievements. This wasn't just a business deal. It was a legacy. I couldn't let it slip away. With a deep breath, I picked up the phone and dialed my attorney's number. "Daniel," I said when he answered, "we need to review the contract again. I think there's something I didn't catch." His voice was calm but firm. "Of course, Mrs. Khan. Send it over immediately and we'll go through it line by line." As I waited, anxiety gnawed at me. What if it was too late? What if the other party noticed my hesitation? Every second felt like an eternity. While reviewing the contract again, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Do not sign. The last line is a trap. Call me if you want to save everything." My heart skipped a beat. Who could this be? A concerned whistleblower? A competitor? My first instinct was skepticism, but the urgency in the message was unmistakable. I dialed up the number cautiously. A calm, authoritative voice answered. "Mrs. Khan, my name is Layla. I work in financial compliance, and I've been monitoring this deal. The last line you just read is not standard. It's designed to trick you into transferring all assets without your consent." Shock and relief washed over me simultaneously. Relief that I hadn't signed yet. Shock that someone had deliberately tried to deceive me. I don't know what to say," I stammered. "How can I trust this information?" Layla replied firmly. "I understand your caution. I can provide proof, documentation, and legal guidance, but you need to act fast. Once you sign, it will be irreversible." I exhaled, a mix of tension and determination. My fingers hovered over the pen, but now I had a lifeline, a chance to confront the deception and protect my family. The game had changed, and I was no longer alone in this. The next morning, I arrived at my office earlier than usual, my mind racing with every possible scenario. I had sent the contract to Daniel, my attorney, and to Layla, the mysterious informant. Both promised to review it thoroughly. I poured a cup of coffee, but it barely warmed me. Every sip was heavy with apprehension. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been waiting for me to make this mistake. Minutes turned into hours as Daniel and Layla meticulously examined every clause. Layla's documents proved that the final line wasn't just misleading, it was a deliberate ploy by a rival company to claim my family's estate, bypassing all legal hurdles. "Mrs. Khan," Daniel said gravely, "if you had signed this, it would have been impossible to reverse. You were incredibly close to losing everything." I felt a chill run down my spine. How did they hide it so well? "They counted on your trust and routine. Most people don't read contracts with the skepticism required. That's why I reached out." I nodded, determination flaring. I wasn't going to let anyone manipulate me or take what I had worked for. The rest of the day became a whirlwind of calls, meetings, and strategy sessions. We had to act fast, or the rivals might try another deceptive maneuver. As we dug further, the depth of the deception became clear. Emails had been altered, financial reports manipulated, and backdoor meetings conducted to isolate me from the truth. The rivals had planned this carefully over months, maybe years, and I had been their target. Layla showed me a file containing screenshots, intercepted communications, and even recordings. It was undeniable. The rival company had been working to undermine my authority, anticipating that I might approve the contract blindly. "What do we do now?" I asked, gripping the edge of the desk. Layla's eyes were sharp, unwavering. "We gather evidence, expose their tactics, and renegotiate the contract under legal supervision. If we move quickly, we can prevent any irreversible damage." I felt a surge of resolve. For months, I had been cautious, diligent, and careful, but nothing prepared me for the audacity of this plan. Now I had the chance to fight back, to reclaim control of my family's future. The next day, I met with the rival company's representative, a man named Fareed, in a neutral conference room. My heart raced, but I maintained a composed exterior. Daniel and Layla flanked me, ready for any misstep. "Mrs. Khan," Fareed began with a smooth smile, "I trust you've reviewed the contract. We are ready to proceed." I held up the final page. "I have read it, and I have noticed the clause you thought would go unnoticed." His smile faltered. I don't understand." Layla stepped forward, placing the evidence on the table. "This clause is legally dubious and was intentionally designed to transfer Mrs. Khan's assets without consent. We have documented proof of the manipulation and will pursue legal action if necessary." The room grew tense. Fareed's confident demeanor cracked as the weight of exposure settled on him. He stammered, attempting excuses, but Daniel's firm voice cut through. "Any further attempt to deceive my client will result in immediate legal consequences. There will be no negotiation on unethical tactics." I felt a wave of triumph. Months of stress, sleepless nights, and constant worry culminated in this moment. I was no longer a passive participant. I was in control. The following week, I implemented the plan Layla had devised. Every meeting, phone call, and email was now scrutinized meticulously. I realized that in order to protect my family and assets, I had to act not only defensively, but offensively. I began by calling a press conference, not for media exposure, but to document that I was aware of the manipulations. The rival company had underestimated me, assuming fear and uncertainty would dominate my decisions. Instead, I felt empowered. Layla's presence was reassuring. "Remember," she said, "confidence is key. If they see hesitation, they'll try another tactic." As I signed legal notices challenging the dubious clauses and requested official audits of financial statements, the rivals' plans began to unravel. Every attempt they made to pressure me was countered with meticulous preparation, evidence, and a resolve that could not be shaken. The last line of the contract that had almost ensnared me became a symbol of vigilance, proof that reading carefully, trusting one's instincts, and seeking allies could change the course of fate. One afternoon, as I reviewed the latest batch of documents, Layla leaned over my shoulder. "There's something else you should see," she said, handing me a folder. Inside were documents showing that the rival company had secretly attempted to bypass legal channels, attempting to access family accounts without authorization. The audacity shocked me. But the folder also contained something unexpected, a note, unsigned, simply reading, "We underestimated her. Proceed carefully next time." A shiver ran down my spine. It was both a warning and an acknowledgement. They knew they had been bested, and yet a trace of arrogance lingered. I realized that vigilance would always be necessary, but for the first time in months, I felt a sense of triumph. I had not only protected my family's wealth, but had also exposed the truth and asserted my authority. Sitting in my office one evening, I reflected on the past weeks. The stress, the fear, the near catastrophe, it all had a purpose. I had learned the importance of reading carefully, of questioning even the most seemingly harmless documents, and of trusting my instincts. Daniel walked in with a folder of finalized contracts. "Everything is now secured, Mrs. Khan. There's no loophole left." I smiled. "Thank you, Daniel." And thank you, Layla, for your guidance. I couldn't have done it without you. Layla shook her head modestly. You did all the hard work. I just helped you see what you already had the power to handle. I realized then that strength wasn't just about knowledge. It was about courage, persistence, and the willingness to confront uncertainty head on. Weeks later, the deal that had once seemed like a threat became an opportunity. With the rivals thwarted and the contract properly structured, my family's estate was more secure than ever. I sat in my office, sunlight streaming through the windows, reflecting on the chaos that had nearly unraveled everything. I picked up the same pen I had almost used on the fateful day and signed the documents, this time with full understanding, control, and confidence. For a brief moment, I allowed myself to exhale, to savor the victory. The last line of the contract had almost trapped me, but instead, it became a lesson in vigilance and resilience. I knew challenges would come again, but for the first time, I felt truly prepared. I had learned that power was not given, it was claimed, cautiously, deliberately, and with unwavering determination. As I left my office that evening, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The last line of a contract had tried to stop me, but I had turned it into the moment that defined my strength.